Namaste, welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Louisa and I'm making a video today on a very important topic. I made one recently on depression and now I want to make one on fear, because I'm sure, like many of you out there, I have been having a lot of lessons in fear at the moment, how to transmute and alchemize fear. When I say alchemize and transmute, I mean change fear into something positive, a positive vibrational frequency in my body. So there's a process for this, which it's kind of intuitive for me, and so it felt a bit random. But when I sat down before I made the video, I started to draw a picture, which I'm going to show as I go through, a kind of a spiral process, which I thought just might be helpful to give us a sort of step-by-step guide. And any of these steps, they don't have to be linear. It gets deeper and deeper, and that's why it's a spiral. But you could just tackle your fear on one of these levels and you might have some success. You may not have to do all of it. This is a very intuitive thing, because each of us is going to move through fear in a different way, and each of us is going to get stuck at one or other step more than another step. So let's look at firstly what's happening when we experience fear on the physical and emotional level. So the first thing to, I guess, become aware of is that we are in a state of fear, and while that sounds kind of obvious, it isn't always obvious. We've got to become, I guess, emotionally intelligent so we can handle the incredible changes that are going on the planet right now. And emotional intelligence requires us to notice when we're having a particular feeling, which can be hard if we're constantly in that feeling. It's like the fish swimming in the sea or the water, right? It doesn't understand the difference between the water or the air because it's always in the water. So if we're always living in an environment of fear, if we have fear as a kind of a default state of being, it may even be hard to recognize that you're in fear. We usually call that level of fear anxiety. So chronic anxiety, hypervigilance. It can manifest as a kind of a restlessness and inability to sleep. It can manifest as worry and rumination, which is more on the thought level, but it's still, if you find yourself doing that, it's a good indication that you're actually in a state of fear. And if you go from anxiety or worry through to full-blown terror, it's the same emotion, just in different degrees, right? So it's important to recognize that if you're just feeling generally anxious, this is fear. So this is a video for you. Now, of course, there's a lot of reasons to feel anxious on the planet at the moment, because we are being bombarded by the media and the government with very negative stories about what's happening and playing out on the planet. So tuning in, and it's not just the media and the government. There are so many stories floating around that we can hook into that are very, very fearful. So it wouldn't be any surprise if you were feeling this pretty much constantly, like having to deal with it in some way every day. So what's happening in the body is it's going into a fight or flight. There's a fight or flight response in the body, so increased adrenaline, cortisol, the chemistry that makes us run or fight or freeze. And I guess I don't want to spend too long on this because I want to keep the video short, so I'll just summarize by saying dealing with fear at this level requires us to feel our feelings, essentially. We are designed, the human body is so incredible, and it is designed to process things like fear. It isn't designed to stay in a state of chronic fear. Of course, we also call that stress, right? There's another word for fear, which is kind of low on the spectrum. And it has a really degrading outcome on our bodies and our minds and our mood and everything, our mental health, our physical health. So we don't want to stay in chronic fear, so it's very important for us to process it. A lot of people are super afraid of, they're fearful of fear. They're super afraid of dealing with the fear. So they do all sorts of things to cover it up, such as self-medicate with alcohol or drugs or food or shopping or whatever it is to kind of get away from the fearful feeling is what they'll tend to do. However, we can process it, we can feel it. If we allow ourselves to simply feel the fear, regardless of the story around the fear, we find that we can actually cleanse it from our bodies and our systems fairly quickly, okay? So feeling it, labeling it, feeling it, and engaging in some self-soothing strategies for the body and the emotional level of our being. So for each of us, that's going to look like something different, but it usually involves something sensual, like a warm bath, or, you know, cuddling up with on bed with a cushion or something. Soothing music has a great effect on the body. Then you can get into all sorts of technical things like lying on crystal mat beds, or walking in nature is a nice way to soothe the body, because the frequency fields in nature are not fear, they are in fact love. Did you know that nature sends out an impulse at the 528 hertz, which is the same vibration as the heart, right? So think of your energy system as something that can be entrained with to a higher frequency. So you're walking around in a kind of energetic bubble, and let's say that energetic bubble is emitting a fear frequency, which it does. Like if you're in a state of fear, you emit a certain frequency and it has a certain wavelength. And if it's negative, it'll be jagged and quite spiky. So going out into nature will reset your energy field, because nature is vibrating at 528 hertz, which is the heart frequency. So it kind of creates what's called heart coherence with you. So yeah, that can be very soothing too. Physical things like yoga is great for calming the nervous system. And you might also want to use some medicinal kinds of foods and medicines, you know, herbal teas or something comforting. Yeah, anyway, I won't go into all of that, but you get what I mean. Self-soothing strategies for your physical and emotional level. Give yourself what you need to help you calm down. Okay, but that's only going to get you so far, because there's another whole massive level to fear, which is really, I think, the one that has the most impact, and that is the thoughts, the thought and belief level, I call it. So this is where the worry, the rumination, and the visualizing the worst comes in. And as I said before, this is really easy to do right now, because the stories are everywhere that we can hook into. And it's so important to detach from those stories and understand that they are just a story. If the media is telling us that there's this many cases of whatever, and you know, this terrible thing's happening over here, is that really true? Okay, we have to question everything. We know that the news for decades has been promoting fear. How we tell, like even if it is true, let's say that there's, I don't know, many COVID cases in India, let's say, even if that is true, the way the story is told is, it could be, you know, told in such a way that they've got it under control and they're using one of the natural things that help with COVID, that the government's doing this and that, and it's all under control, folks. Or they can tell us a really scary story, which is what they tend to do, with, you know, hyperbole in the language, like cases ballooning and it's out of control, and showing pictures of dead bodies, and right. So do you see what I mean? There's a big difference in the way a story can be presented, regardless of the facts, that generates that fear. And unfortunately, as human beings, we're so susceptible to being hijacked into a story, to think, oh my goodness. Now this is true in the media, but it's also true in the kind of the other camp of humanity at the moment, which is what I call the truther community, who are like following the dark agenda plans that are being rolled out on the planet. And like that story is horrifying as well. So it's very easy to get really freaked out, and those stories are also full of exaggeration, disinformation, you know, what is true, what isn't, okay? Now, this is what's also known as the 4D level of humanity. The fourth dimension is the realm of ideas and thoughts, and it's a mess up. It's a mess at the moment, guys. It's an absolute mess. I really feel like, you know, each of us are being called to consult our own inner expert about what is true right now. And it doesn't matter which camp you're in, if you're in the COVID believing camp or if you're in the so-called truther community camp, you're still going to have this work to do, which is to ultimately go within and figure out what's right for you. So working with fear at this thought belief level is going to be around, firstly, I think recognizing that you can be hooked into a story, as I mentioned. Also recognizing that fear is a program running in the human collective. So this is helpful to understand because it's just like a reminder check that, hang on a minute, it's a program that's running. It's a program that's been instilled in us for thousands of years. Right now we have a fear program running through health, right? There is a health scare on the planet, and our natural human immunity won't cut it. We need to be very afraid. We need to wear masks. We need to whatever. This is a story that is designed to instill fear. Now, thousands of years ago, there were other fear stories. It might have been a health issue as well, but it could also have been the fear story of, God will punish you if you're not good, or you're a sinner, or it could have been a multitude of fear stories that have played out down through the ages. And we've never seen it more than in our current era with things like television. We literally call them programs, TV programs. They are programming us, right? This is unfortunately, it's how the human being works. It's how we learn, is through instruction and repetition by others. When we're children, we learn it from our parents, and then, of course, as we get older, from our general society. And we learn what's right and wrong, and we learn what beliefs to take on and what not to take on, and all that stuff is a kind of programming. So, we're very reliant as human beings on the quality and the integrity of that program in order for us to operate well. But if you look at society breaking down as it currently is, we can tell that the programs that have been instilled in us have been very damaging and quite likely very untrue. The beautiful part about being a sovereign being is we get to question everything, and we actually get to build our own programs. I believe that humanity right now is going through a mass deprogramming, which is also called awakening. See, it's the opposite side of the coin. If we're going to awaken up into personal truth and sovereignty and new levels of spiritual evolution, we have to release some of the old beliefs. We have to deprogram ourselves. We have to declutter all of that stuff that's getting in the way of us actually creating a human society that is happy, that is good for us, and in which we can be happy. So there's a lot of deprogramming going on. So recognizing that fear is a program can help. It's just the thought and belief level is really all around awareness and this reframing the story that's been told. That you can think of the thought and belief level as the story level. The physical level is not a story level. It's something a lot more primal that's going on in the body, right? It's visceral reaction to something that you just cannot control. Where your control lies is mainly in this thought belief level. You can change your beliefs around things. I'm not saying it's easy, because part of the thought belief level is this thing called core beliefs. And core beliefs develop from the programs. So if the programming, the fear programming in your bubble of reality, in your society, is very heavy, then you're going to find this quite difficult, because you will have a deep core belief that you are unsafe, you are a victim, you are powerless. Now, it's sort of in the, it's often, let's say it's often in the interests of those running the fear programs to give you that core belief that you're powerless, At the very most superficial level, it's to make money. I mean, that's what advertising does all the time. It makes you feel inadequate or fearful. The whole insurance concept, the concept of insurance, is based around fear. What if this happens? I need to get, insurance to cover that. What if? And a lot of safety protocols are fear-based as well. I mean, I'm obviously all for doing a job safely, but it can be taken too far. And I would argue that right now we're in the middle of safety protocols gone nuts. Like, it's too much. It's actually, if you cotton wool everybody, it does harm, which we're seeing with the lockdowns and the masks, etc. So Yeah, so but that is possible. All that stuff is possible because of a deep core belief that you are helpless, powerless, and someone else is going to rescue you and save you. So this is another thing that we're deprogramming ourselves from in society, where we need to challenge it. And this happens collectively, but every single one of us is responsible for it, for changing this belief system in our own energy field. So you've got to challenge it somehow. And the way that I do it, I have a few sort of tools. I always look for the highest perspective. That's what I try and do. So if I'm in a really funky fear-based frequency mood, like, oh my goodness, and I can feel it hits me now and then, I'm like, whoa, I catch myself, and then I'm like, wait, I'm going to actively look for the higher perspective here. And it's kind of become second nature to me to almost think my way out of, and I keep drawing a spiral, and the reason is because I'm thinking my way out of the funk. I'm starting down here in the fear base, and then I'm looking for a higher perspective on it. And now I have a few belief systems which, new beliefs, because these are belief systems that I've only developed in the last 5 or so years that I've been really, truly awake. And they work well for me because I've worked with them long enough, I've researched them enough, I've participated in them enough, really, because belief is not just about something you're taught on the outside. For a belief to really stick, it's got to be lived and practiced and so forth. So these belief systems work for me because I've developed, I've relied on them for a while. So they might, you might be starting off without these kinds of things, these tools as I speak to you now, and you're going to have to work on this and really challenge those negative beliefs to replace them. But I'll just give you an example. So my new beliefs that I work with are things like the fact that we are shifting from a low frequency density on Earth called the third dimension into a higher density called the fifth dimension. Now this is a belief, okay? So I'm sharing it with you now to show you how I get out of the fear. Now I know that in the third dimension there is a lot of fear. That's where the fear programming lives. And this is the matrix that humanity's been living in for thousands of years. We are now evolving out of that and evolving out of it rapidly. So things are going to look like a big mess on the outside, but I know when I tune into my own guidance, my own knowing, just my energetic reading of what's going on the planet, I'm feeling the opposite of what I'm seeing. I'm feeling liberation. I'm feeling love and truth and unity coming. And I have a lot of now grounded experiences in this where it's actually, magic is happening every single day for me. And I'm having experiences where I'm very connected to source. So that's why the belief is strong for me. I have evidence of it, and it makes sense, and it's been validated by many teachers that I follow. So this idea that we're shifting in consciousness helps me because I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, there's horrible things going on the planet, but if I go to a higher perspective, I can see that this is part of a transition. I call it the wormhole. It's a dimensional wormhole from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. And wow, this is what a wormhole looks like on planet Earth in 2021. This is what it looks like as we transition and we shift. So that helps me. I also have a really grounded belief in quantum physics, and even though I'm not too much of a science brain, I get it enough that quantum physics states that we are all one. We exist in a unified field of intelligence. So whatever I'm thinking and feeling is actually having an influence on that matrix out there. And as long as I keep my energy field in a high frequency and I'm operating from a place of love and integrity, my reality will be just fine, right? And this has been true for me the whole COVID situation. I haven't had disasters before me. I have managed to stay really well and happy. I managed to keep achieving my dreams. And this isn't to compare or judge anyone who has been having difficulties over COVID, because we're all at different places with this stuff, right? I went through my dark night of the soul 10 years ago. I faced my demons. I faced my fears, to the point where I didn't think I was going to make it. And I think because I did all of that dark night of the soul work 10 years ago, I'm in a place where I've been able to maintain my balance. And as I said in my previous video, all of us have got different jobs on the planet right now. So one of my jobs, as I understand it, is to stay in this high vibrational frequency and place of love in order to anchor in this light and just kind of hold the collective shared field steady, okay? Because we're all contributing to that field. And when you're in a state of love and light, you're actually contributing a lot more powerfully than if you're in a state of fear. Dan Winter goes into this. I might drop one of his YouTube videos links below, but he talks about this thing called shareable thoughts versus non-shareable thoughts. And again, it's quantum physics in operation, but when a thought benefits the whole, or an action benefits the whole, it is what the quantum field labels as shareable, and then it amplifies out into the field in a vastly more powerful way than a negative toxic thought, a fear-based thought, which does have an impact, but it's a little one. Okay, you can imagine like stones dropping in a pond. A fear-based thought is a little tiny thought that goes out, and you need many, many, many people to be in a fear-based frequency for it to have an impact. But a loving thought is like dropping in a great big stone, or let's say quartz crystal, into that water, and it goes boom, 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 boom. And you only need one person in that state of frequency to have a major impact. So that is a personal belief of mine that holds me steady at these times, and you can see how I've just described a story to you that you don't need to adopt, but the point of it is that story is what helps lift me out of the fear frequency. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next level, which is the faith level. So this is now a merging of the thought belief level and the level of faith, or source consciousness, God consciousness, and the boundaries start to get really blurry here, because hopefully by the time you've worked with the thought belief level and you've come up with some kind of story that supports you, you're going to find that it actually, there's a large element of faith connected to it. So, for example, with my belief system around the 5D transition, I do have to have faith in that, right? I don't have all the evidence in front of me. I can't know for sure. None of us can. That's part of the game of being human. So I have to create a bridge with faith that connects me to that visioned reality that I can see and where I am currently. And, for a lot of folks, that's actually going to look like a faith in God. And again, that's a good relatable example of faith, because, how many of us has God just dropped down out of the sky and had a chat with us, okay? I mean, it does happen. I have literally communed with what I felt like was the God energy, but there are many, many layers to God. God is just God is like the ultimate expression of consciousness that is also us. That's my view, but that's how I see it. It's an expression of the one, and there are times when human beings can access that, but for many of us we can't. We're kind of, we come here on purpose to forget about our connection to source, to live in separation and play in duality. This is the whole point of the 3D Earth School. So in order for us to connect to that, we have to have that little thread of faith that we know there's something bigger than us and something is looking out for us. And there's going to be belief systems threaded through your faith level that may well really assist you. One of the ones that I have drawn from faith is this idea that everything changes and everything is for the best. So that is a belief, but it's also an expression of faith, because everything is always changing, right? That's a truism. This is what the earth realm is. It's always changing. So if you don't like what's happening right now, it will change. Okay? And I guess where the human mind gets stuck is that, like, yeah, but what if it gets worse, right? That's where the fear comes in. But if you follow that statement up with everything always changes and everything's always for the best, or everything is serving me, that changes it again, right? That's a really positive story, because again, I believe and I have faith that the universe is benevolent. And I can understand why there's darkness on the planet right now. I can understand why we're seeing a mess in front of us, because we are cleaning out our house, okay? We are collectively getting rid of all of this. And we have to see our fears in order to transmute them. if they lie buried in the unconscious, we can never ever deal with them. So right now, humanity is having a dark night of the soul as it confronts all of its fears. So I have faith that that is for the best. And one reason I can have faith is because I went through a psychosis. I went through an experience of seeing all of my worst fears in front of me as if they kind of came to life. And I know now that it was for the best. It was incredible. It was so healing. I resolved a lot of those fears, and just by facing them. So that is that's also a reason why I'm so okay with this, I guess. I'm able to sit in a state of surrender and acceptance and calmness for most of the time. But by the same token, I am sharing this video because I have been going in and out of my own fear moments, and sometimes that strikes me really strongly. It's sort of almost panic and like, oh my God, things are so dark. But because of these tools that I'm describing today, I'm able to very quickly get out of it. So that's why I'm sharing it. Okay, so the final level that I want to share with you, I'm going to relate a really interesting story to teach about this level. And this is the kernel of my drawing. This is like right at the center, and it's as deep as I'm able to go at this point. But I do believe it could well be the deepest that anybody can go. And the reason I say that is it's about love. And we know that love is ultimately all there is. Okay? And when I say we know that, it's a deep intuitive knowing. You might not intellectually know that. You might disagree with that statement intellectually. But as you relax, as you surrender, as you start to walk this path of faith and trust in the universe, the love will start to flow, and you'll start to realize that really all there is love. And we do have a choice to live in that frequency or to play in the negative frequencies. The negative frequencies teach us. That's why we came here and we're experiencing them. But as we evolve as beings, we're going to be able to choose that, and I believe that's what humanity's doing. We're making a choice, a collective choice, to move into love, a future of love, a future of unity and freedom and everything that love brings, right? You can't have a future of love and have all this control that we see going on around us. That's not love. Controlling people's freedom of choice is not love. Love, we intuitively know that love is also free. Love allows everybody to have their experience and is forgiving and compassionate for those experiences. So, so the story I wanted to tell was the teachings that I was given through plant medicine. Now, plant medicine is the ones that I took have been acacia bark, which is the native wattle tree to Australia. And I believe there's acacias all over the world, so it's kind of a global plant medicine. And I've done this ceremony twice with shamans who have, guided me through it and made sure I was safe. Intense, the most intense thing I've ever done. I mean, talk about plunging yourself into I guess a controlled psychosis, because it's controlled in the sense that you're willing it, okay, but you don't have any control once you're in it, which is the hallmark of a psychosis. And it's got that feeling about it, because the plant kind of hijacks your senses. And the way I see it is, hijacking sounds like a bad word, but the way I see it is your ego temporarily dissolves, so that there's nothing left for you to defend. Your defenses drop. You can't defend against your fears. You can't defend against your true thoughts. It's all there. It's all bare. And that was what psychosis was like for me when I went through it, which is why I compare it to psychosis. So with your ego dissolved temporarily through the action of the plant medicine, this wonderful teacher that it is, the two times that I've done the plant medicine, the first time was absolutely terrifying for me, because I was storing a lot of fear in my body through trauma and also through past experiments with psychedelic drugs, which had been really horrific and scary. So they had left an imprint, and I was fearful taking this plant medicine that would reoccur. And guess what? It did. And the reason it did is because those fears were sitting there in my subconscious and they needed to be addressed. So what I saw in front of my eyes when I was doing this plant medicine, it was hallucinogenic, so I could kind of see it, was all these really scary reptiles, like a jungle scene full of snakes and scary looking crocodile-y things, and just all the primal fears around reptilian energy that we have as human beings often. So I was absolutely terrified, to say the least, and I thought I was going to go mad forever. I thought, oh my God, like, this is it. I'm just going to be in this state of fear forever. I don't know why. I don't know why the mind is so histrionic in these experiences, but you know, that's what fear does, right? It I guess it almost freezes you, and you think this is going to be it. So I'm in this state of terror, looking at all the fears playing out in front of me, and I intuitively went to a yoga practice, which was to breathe. Right, I just tried to focus on my breath. And then I also remembered a beautiful practice that Matt Kahn taught me in his teachings, which was just simply to say, I love you, right? I love you, I love you, I love you. And I went into this deep breathing, and I just kept focusing on, I love you, I love you, I love you. And look, plant medicine journeys are timeless, but it felt like pretty quickly when I started that practice, and when I genuinely activated my own heart energy towards love for myself, I was pulled up out of that fear. Like, it felt like God had come down and kind of scooped me up in her arms and took me to this beautiful state of consciousness where I was able to see the love, feel completely safe, understand why I'd just gone through that. All the insights came rushing in, and after that I had, you know, a really positive experience, a really connected experience. So what that taught me about love was the power of love against fear, and how it didn't matter how scary things got. If I just hung on to that, I was going to be okay. And then I got a chance to retest it the year before. I did another acacia bark ceremony, and this time the scary images came up initially. They weren't exactly the same, they were different, but I was seeing just scary things in my field, like lots of little beings sort of coming at me, and with nasty teeth. And you see, these things are generated by your own mind. Like there's fear coming up from your cells, and then it's translated as an emotion and as a vision, which is the astral realm, the 4D, like a 4D representation of fear. So my unique way of seeing that was all these little creatures kind of with pointy teeth and evil eyes staring at me. And I remembered, you know, because I'd now learnt a lot about the power of my heart, I'd had that previous experience. So I remembered very quickly, I just have to love this, and it's going to change. And that's exactly what happened. I just started to generate love for what I was seeing. And as I did that, the little images in front of my eyes morphed into happy, positive images with little beings that were loving. And it was really, really interesting to just watch that power of transformation that I had with my own emotions. And that plant medicine was kind of cruisy for me, because I thought, well, I've learnt my lesson. Like, I understand. Thank you to that plant medicine. Thank you to acacia bark. I understand now the power, because I've seen it, you see. Sometimes to understand something, we need to see it. And I had now had a visual of what it looks like to have fear in your energy field, and then to transmute it with love. So when I think back on that experience, I know that if I'm sitting here one day waking up in a state of fear about what's happening on the planet, all I need to do to affect my energy field is go into a state of love. And I know that that's going to affect the whole as well. I did also witness that when I was in that plant medicine journey, whereby there were some other people in the room with us doing the ceremony, and one lady was having a really tough time, and every time she moaned or groaned or purged, I could see my energy field changing, like it would have an effect on the little things that I was viewing, and then I was able to send back love to her, and then that would alter her energy field. So I could kind of, it's hard to explain it, but I could see the energy suit that we all share. and we all often get told that, aren't we? We're all one, we're all connected. Quantum physics has proved it, but to actually see it is a whole nother thing, and I think it really helps consolidate that knowing in my body and my mind. So knowing that we're all connected, knowing that my love can influence the energy field, that's essentially what I'm working with now, and that's the deepest place that I'm able to go with all of the sphere stuff in order to transmute it. And I kind of know that that's part of my job as well, you know, because I'm able to do it. Like I said, we've all got different roles here, and for some of you listening, your role might be to simply, well, not simply, because each of the levels is challenging, but your role might be to work on the physical, emotional level, to really start to transmute the feelings in your body. Your role might be to just learn how to feel your feelings. Maybe you've been shutting them out for years and you don't trust feelings, so that might be the level that you work on. Or you might be working on the thought belief level, so really sort of giving your core belief system a declutter, getting rid of anything that doesn't serve you, remembering that you're a creative sovereign being. You get to choose your reality based on your thoughts and your beliefs. So, you know, we're taught that beliefs are absolute, that's how it is. That isn't how it is. The world is magical. The universe is magical. And we are shifting now into a time when anything is possible for humanity. It's just going to take a while, okay? It's just going to take a while. And when I say a while, I don't mean that long. Things are changing rapidly now, and you know, planet Gaia has committed to this ascension. Humanity has committed to this ascension. We are going to get there, and it's only going to be, you know, a matter of a few short years. And I think that, I mean, not for us to culminate in ta-da, the new Homo luminous, a crystalline human being is ready to go. That whole process will take hundreds of years, probably in many generations, but the beginning of the new earth, the beginning of the new consciousness, we will see in this lifetime, and I believe we will see in a few very short years. So let's hang in there, get through this really difficult time, this wormhole, this transition. You know, I also think that we're almost at that crisis point where the worst will be over. So I feel like a climax is still coming, but then the game is going to be up, and we're nearly there. We're on the cusp of that. I can't give you dates, nobody can, but it feels very, very close. So, you know, let's just hang in there and know that we're going to get through this, and we're going to come out the other side with a huge big sigh of relief and probably a lot of celebration, because where we're going is amazing, and we will feel it, and everybody will be able to experience it if they so choose on a soul level. Because as I said, we've all got different roles to play, and some of us are not up for this change. Some of us are going to vote for, you know, a different path, for exiting, for not being a part of the new earth. I don't know how that's going to look. There's lots of theories around about how people do that, but you know, one of them, of course, is just departing, just dying. There's nothing wrong with dying. There's nothing to be feared about dying. It's just the soul exiting the body and choosing its next avatar, its next body, its next experience. So yeah. Okay, well, I think I managed to get everything out that I really wanted to share about that, and I hope it was valuable, and yeah, just sending you all lots and lots of love and blessings for your journey as you travel through fear. I'm pretty sure there's no one on the planet that's immune from this at the moment, so hopefully this is going to be relatable to lots of you. And yeah, just sending you lots and lots of love on this day, and take care. I'll see you again soon. Bye.